What's up, good people? Before I lay it down, I thought I should leave you guys with something of interest. I found very interesting. People keep sending me this clip of Katt Williams making a statement about Dave Chappelle, and they always send me this clip, and they've been sending me this clip for a week straight. Like I got to comment on it. Type of this is why we're sending it to you because we want you to comment on it. So it's one of those. I don't know who's gonna get the notification, who's not. Hope everybody get it. If you do, hit the like button right away. You know, we want to make sure. What's up, Trinidadians? I see you. Thanks, Scorpio. I appreciate that. Yes, my Carcino for Life Patreon is off the chain. We do have the most active Patreon of anybody on Patreon. We do have the record for like 3 years in a row. But let's listen to what Katt Williams had to say about Dave Chappelle in the clip that they keep sending me. I want you guys to hear what he had to say here.
Okay. Because I've never been the funniest person on the planet at any point. So now it doesn't matter if people have a different opinion, and it doesn't matter if my fans think differently. They're biased. They should think differently. But now Dave Chappelle has always been funnier than me. And Chris Rock has always been funnier than me. I've always been aware of who was funnier than me. I've just also been aware of who wasn't. So now I know the real Bernie Mac stories, and I know that the people that made money off Bernie Mac didn't like him. They hated his guts. And that was our king. That was our real king. Technically, this story doesn't have anything to do with me.
So everyone keeps sending me that. And I know why they keep sending me that. They're trying to say, he already said Dave's the king. But they're sending me that because they want to send it to, I guess they're sending it to Corey Holcomb too. Because Corey Holcomb said Dave bombs. He never said Dave Chappelle ain't funny. He never said Dave Chappelle ain't funny. Like he ain't never had a good stand-up before. Dave Chappelle do bomb sometimes. It's not all the magic. Sometimes you're going to bomb. That's just how it is. Hello, Mr. Dixon. So sometimes you're going to bomb. He said, I just saw him in Orlando. He needs to take Kevin Hart's wife off the tour. She is not funny. Oh, man, leave Tori alone. Let her get her buddy, man. Cat making sure she can eat. Because if it was up to Kevin Hart, she'd starve. Even though he did half his stand-up comedy off of the back of her. But that's another story. That ain't why we're here. Now, we'll let y'all listen to what Kat said one more time so we can give you guys some clarity.
Okay. Because I've never been the funniest person on the planet at any point. So now it doesn't matter if people have a different opinion, and it doesn't matter if my fans think differently. They're biased. They should think differently. But now Dave Chappelle has always been funnier than me. And Chris Rock has always been funnier than me. I've always been aware of who was funnier than me. I've just also been aware of who wasn't.
Now, y'all using this as a shot at Corey Holcomb? I don't get it. He said Dave Chappelle was funnier than him. That's how he felt. You see, the narratives, the more they change, they stay the same in certain areas, right, of expertise. For instance, if I was to say, I think it'd be a good idea if we were to go out and do a comedy special and somebody, did a warm up or a set somewhere and they set was so and I came out, told the whole world they bombed. Now, what the world is trying to say is Katt Williams said all these nice things about Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle ripping on Katt Williams. Dave ain't loyal. Then I have the same people sending me the same clip saying, oh, Katt Williams, he just totally just made Corey Holcomb look like a fool. He just said Dave Chappelle is funnier than him, and he up here defending Katt. None of this has anything to do. You can't take a clip of something and try to create 3, 4, 5 different narratives. I've been sent this same clip over and over again. This clip has nothing to do with anything going on right now. This clip was mostly to talk about Steve Harvey. This was all about Steve Harvey in this talk. So that's what this was about. But people nowadays take a clip of something and make a narrative out of it. So it's amazing to me that people sending the same clip and using it for different narratives. They're showing one narrative of, man, look, Katt was being real and Dave was being a snake. He was showing love to Dave and all this, and look at what he did. Then on the other hand, it's, man, Corey Holcomb don't know what he's talking about. Look what Katt said about Dave Chappelle. How dare you gonna say Dave ain't funny? He's a hater. I've seen this thing in this narrative go over and over again. And that's not even the important part that they should be talking about. You see, there's a more important thing that you didn't see that they should have been sharing, but they didn't. But I'm going to share it to you right now so you can hear it.
Dave Chappelle was decapitated in front of us. And until we deal with that, until we deal with the fact that a devout Muslim who doesn't eat bacon was accused of being a crackhead, until we establish the fact that they said that he went to Africa to smoke cocaine when we know they don't have running water and food over there, when they don't have paved roads over there. You saying he flew past Chicago and Miami and LA and New York and Detroit. You said he went past Cleveland and Fort Pierce, Florida, and he went past Okeechobee and Oakland. You said he went to another country where they're not eating.
Right.
You talking about somebody who has a wife and children, 5 children, and lives on a farm, doesn't live here in Hollywood. You saying you convinced people that person was an insane crackhead, and he hasn't been on movies and TV for 8 years? Is that correct? Okay, then don't tell me about what you want to tell me about. I just watched you decapitate the king in front of me, and then act like he's supposed to catch up and be a regular comedian like everybody else. But no.
He didn't go for that.
That's not how it went. He was out there with us for 20 years. They called him Pilot Boy because he had 19 pilots in Hollywood, and everybody passed on him and said his show wasn't worth it.
What do you think of
Then when he made $500 million, they said, even though his contract said he should get half of it, they said he made too much for the contract to be valid. So we'll offer you 10% of what you made. You mean he made 500 million and they offered him 50? Yes. And he said, what do you think my fans are going to say when they find out you offered me 10% of what I made you? And they said, your fans will believe that you're a crazy crackhead by the time you get home. And my nigga got on a flight in LA, and by the time he got to Ohio, It was so. And 8 years later, he hasn't been in a movie and or television. Is just now trying to do his real comeback at Radio City Music Hall. It bees like that sometimes. So now you can be the fake king or you can be the real king, but heavy is the head.
We don't have the Tesseract. It was destroyed.
Okay, that wasn't what we were showing. No Thor. But as you can see, y'all, it's quite clear. And I know exactly what he's talking about, but like in Katt Williams' logic, he's getting some things mixed up. He's mixing up. Now, why didn't nobody send that clip? You see what I'm saying? That's the clip they should be sending people. But they don't want you to hear that because that's too powerful for somebody to hear. Now, let me clarify what Katt Williams is saying, because he's saying things out of order. And he's right, but this is two different conversations. You know, he's mixing what happened with the final straw with what actually happened in his contract negotiations. His contract negotiations happened before they even went through the season and all of this. Dave wasn't happy. Okay. So when he's talking about what Dave has generated, Dave's saying, well, this is what I generated. This is what I should receive. And based on me being executive producer, creator, writer of the sketches, there's many more checks Dave Chappelle is going to get. But those come down the road on the back end. But if you add it all together, he really is generating about 40 to 50% of the revenue, you know, and him and Neil Brennan is writing the scripts. They're one of the head writers. They got other writers, but they're the two main story creators. And Neil Brennan was working more with Comedy Central than Dave, and he wasn't really trying to hear Dave side of it. He's listening at, look, we can't blow this money. You know, the money's here now. We can. So he's more in line with corporate than he is with his boy Dave. And once he started seeing his homeboy was moving different, he knew he couldn't trust Neil anymore. He was starting to pull away. And Dave gets into these funks where, you know, he just shuts down creatively, especially if he gets stuck for a minute. Like creatively, he's just getting burnt out from all the nonsense. But he was always unhappy with the contract negotiation. Like everybody made a big deal about the $50 million. Like, man, Dave, you just got $50 million. But like Katt said, he had generated over $500 million. That's about where they were at. The Chappelle Show, Rick James, all of that was huge for Comedy Central. And Dave Chappelle had brought in a revenue of over 500 million. So what happened in that scenario, in that sense, is it changed the dynamic of how they were going to do and pursue these shows. And Dave's contract, the way it was going to be structured, it put Dave in a situation to make him very wealthy. Now, he got benchmarks he got to make. The show got to do X, Y, and Z in order for this to work, that to work. So they having more control now with this new contract. Because of the way the contract was structured, Dave is not going to get no 250 million. They don't feel comfortable giving somebody 250 million. Now they would. But back then, 50 million seemed like a large deal, which it was. And they's like, be grateful for that. So he made 10%. That's where the 10% come from, of what he actually was earning. He made 10% of it, of what he actually was generating. But no, he wasn't going to get 250 million, like half of it. That wasn't the case. He just generated over 500 million, and they paid him 10% of it, and said, "This is your contract." But they telling him like, "Look, you're executive producer. You got writing credits. He got so many credits that's gonna that's gonna accumulate. Not just him being a performer, actor. He's gonna have like 4 or 5 different checks coming in. So his deal is way more than 50 million. So the money was never really the problem. The problem was the new structuring of that contract gave them more control and power. And the more Dave used to fight them, and they would just cave. Now they feel like, nah, you need this money. You ain't finna walk away from this bread. So we got you by the bread, and we know we can talk our shit now because we signed you and we gave you the money. So you gonna have to do what we say. So we gonna put our foot down on some of this stuff. And we want more of the black exploitation stuff. They want Clarence Bigsby back. They telling Chappelle what they want in the skits, when before they didn't even know. And Dave Chappelle is like, y'all don't even know what the skit is about. Y'all don't know what's going on at all. Y'all didn't know what the skits was till y'all saw them on TV with the fans. Now all of a sudden y'all demanding things. We want Clarence Bigsby to come back. We want this to come back. We want that to come back. So he was starting to get it. Well, people gotta understand, man. It's a dog eat dog world. And right now, they have a very bad problem on their hands. They have a situation right now where comedians are just not eating. They don't have any real platforms anymore like they used to. It's dried up for the comedians. The comedy game, everybody's like, man, we need some energy to get people to come up. It's like this now. Everybody go to a comedy show, you do your stand-up, somebody with a camera phone records it and put it out. That's ruining your next set. They just saw you on YouTube. So, it kind of ruins your set, and they kind of ruin your jokes. This is why Dave is like, look, when I'm out working on material, I don't need somebody with a camera out there. Well, yeah, and then they threatened him and said, look, these people, we can make these people believe you're out of control, manic, and having a nervous breakdown. Like, Dave's just like, oh, Dave's having a nervous breakdown. He's overworked, he's stressed, so he's just having a nervous breakdown. So they got to put this in there like, oh, we're going to have to send you to an evaluation, because now, because of his contract and the way it's structured, they could easily void his contract and get out of the 50 million by saying he's crazy and he needs medical attention and he's refusing medical help. They could say, well, we can void his contract. Now, they weren't going to do that because they wanted Chappelle to come back. But more than that, their ego couldn't take a hit. Chappelle was the biggest thing on television as far as traffic and generating hits. Comedy Central has never had anything like that. They was looked at as generic. They had cartoons, and that was it. Adult themed cartoons and stuff. Other than that, they were not popping like that. Chappelle show came out, and boom, it's like a stick of dynamite. Took off. And from the first episode on, it was a hit. It was like, you mean to say Dave Chappelle could say anything he want on cable television? That was the first time I've heard cursing on cable television. I saw a nipple on cable television. Yeah, I mean, he did the black exploitation thing, and it was just like, okay, we don't want to. We've done those already. We don't have to keep repeating those type of stereotypes. That was really pushing the envelope. The Chappelle show has always done well, even on replays. No show had more replay value than the Dave Chappelle show. On Netflix, when it hit on Netflix, when it hit on HBO Max or wherever they put it, man, it just spread it. And everybody started watching episodes and just replay values through the roof. I need a cup of Blame James right now. So what Katt Williams was talking about is not why Dave went to Africa. Dave went to Africa after they was pulling this move with him and telling him what he gonna do, and he's got to finish it. He got a deadline. He got to do this. You got to have it written by this time. And he's just like, man, the pressure was just too much. And then they threatened him and said, like, we can have you committed and put in a crazy house. That's when he went to Africa. When he started talking like that, he knew it was time to get up.
Chappelle was decapitated in front of us. And until we deal with that, until we deal with the fact that a devout Muslim who doesn't eat bacon was accused of being a crackhead, until we establish the fact that they said that he went to Africa to smoke cocaine when we know they don't have running water and food over there, when they don't have paved roads over there. You saying he flew past Chicago and Miami and LA and New York and Detroit. You said he went past Cleveland and Fort Pierce, Florida, and he went past Okeechobee and Oakland. You said he went to another country where they're not eating.
Right.
You talking about somebody who has a wife and children, 5 children, and lives on a farm, doesn't live here in Hollywood. You saying you convinced people that person was an insane crackhead, and he hasn't been on movies and TV for 8 years? Is that correct? Wow. Okay, then don't tell me about what you want to tell me about. I just watched you decapitate the king in front of me, and then act like he's supposed to catch up and be a regular comedian like everybody else.
Now, this is why no, I'm saying what Katt is saying, but to a different degree. He's mixing 2 situations into one. He's making it look like the contract negotiation, these things happen at different times. That's not why he went to Africa. True, they made him into a crackhead. They made Michael Jackson into a pedo. They do these things. And the day he died, they announced he died, all of that stuff was over. The next day in the paper, it was, oh, these people lied. Michael was so clear. They started cleaning his name up in the papers. They played his music on the radio for the first time ever. He was like blacklisted from the radio. Now you hearing Mike all over the radio. Biggest thing in the world. Everybody wanted a piece of Mike. Well, see, the thing is, I'm trying to get people to see that the game is what it is. And they control it. They write the contracts. They make their own policies on what to distribute and what's not. We have no distribution, so we have no power in it. The only way you could control it is like with streaming services, where you own your material, you own everything, you put up all the promotional money, and you just sponsor it yourself. But the thing is that every time black billionaires or millionaires came together for something, something happened to the group of people. Something always happened to the group. Somebody always sabotages the group and want to split and do their own thing because there's too many individuals in the group and they don't have a singular mind. Everybody has a singular mind instead of a group mind of saying we got to grow together. We got to do this together. Everywhere else is promoted. Everybody work with each other. Mexicans promote working with each other. White people promote it, Jewish people, Italians, they promote working with each other. It's pride in doing that. Nobody bats an eye. Once you say, I'm black and I'm proud, or I'm black pride, and you want to partner with your black compadres, this is where all the friction come in, all the disdain and the what are you doing this for? That's where that comes from. Fair use act, fair use. We're only using this for commentary purposes, not playing the entire video.
But no,
he didn't go for that.
That's not how. And he was out there with us for 20 years. They called him Pilot Boy because he had 19 pilots in Hollywood, and everybody passed on him and said his show wasn't worth it.
What do you think of?
Then when he made $500 million, they said even though his contract said he should get half of it, they said he made too much for the contract to be valid. So we'll offer you 10% of what you made. You mean he made 500 million and they offered him 50? Yes. And he said, what do you think my fans are going to say when they find out you offered me 10% of what I made you? And they said, your fans will believe that you're a crazy crackhead by the time you get home. And my nigga got on the flight in LA, and by the time he got to Ohio, it was so. And 8 years later, he hasn't been in a movie and or television. It's just now trying.
So well, that pretty much tells the tale by itself. It tells a very huge scenario about contracts, but it didn't happen like that. It wasn't that they owed him $250 million. He just generated 500 million, but to say we're gonna give you a contract for 10% of what you earned and generated already, and we're just gonna pay you the 10%. It's insulting to somebody like Dave Chappelle. That contract was an insult. You said what? Whose show was good, Dave or Martin? The Chappelle. They're two different type of shows. Martin was a sitcom. This was like a variety show, a sketch comedy show, where you just have Dave come out and he'll talk for a little while, then he starts showing clips. So there are two different structures to it. Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. Like Katt says, he's not delusional. He knows comedy. You know, he doesn't lie to himself. And Katt Williams, as long as he don't lie to himself, he's always gonna win. Katt came out and said literally, "Hey, this is me." Absolutely. He came out and let it be known. This is me. I won't say Martin was hood based. Martin was a successful radio host. He hosted the radio station. He had a very good job. He lived in a decent apartment. He didn't live in the slums. But this was the first sitcom that ever focused on young black relationships. You didn't see young black relationships or couples. Everything we saw with black was black families. Yeah, Cosby Show. You wasn't, Dwayne and Whitley. They never really had their own sitcom. A Different World was kind of the only thing you could say that was close to it. And we had Dwayne and Whitley on there. But besides that, you got to see them in a relationship, really, him and Gina growing together as each year go on. Two young couples living together. Well, they weren't even living together. They were just dating. She'll stay over his house. He'll stay over there sometimes at her crib. And then the friends that was there with Tommy and them, they all hang out with each other and go places. That's normally what goes on in just everyday life. It wasn't just the hood. Gina had a good job, so they all had good jobs. Nobody knew what Tommy did, but Tommy wasn't broke. Family Matters, that's another one that wasn't about young black couples. It was about high school kids liking each other. Urkel liked the girl next door, and the Winslows. Well, that was the formula. As the Jamie Foxx show came along, it was based on them working at the hotel and all this stuff, but it was kind of like that, but not. It was good to see because Stan should have had a longer run on Martin. They said Martin Lawrence got rid of him. That wasn't Martin's decision. When he got shot or whatever, and he was in the hospital, the studio let him go. The studio. That wasn't Martin Lawrence firing him. That was the studio's decision. That had nothing to do with him. Everybody knew Tommy sold drugs. I didn't know that. And I don't think he ever did. No, everybody trying to make it like he came in from power or something. Yeah, by Stan being so cheap, him and the other white guy that was on the show, Sean, they made the show work from a just the small time they had on the screen. They added Sean on there because the network said they needed a white guy. He was the token white guy. They had to just have a white guy be on the show. The studio in, and then that's why you saw Sean have a bunch of speaking lines. That's why Louis Anderson was in Coming to America. And right before he passed away, he did the sequel. Studio said, hey, we got too many Negroes running around. We need some white guys. So I hope this answered the
Made money off Bernie Mac, didn't like him. They hated his guts. And that was our king. That was our real king. Technically, this story doesn't have anything to do with me.
Okay.
Because I've never been the funniest person on the planet at any point. So now it doesn't matter if people have a different opinion, and it doesn't matter if my fans think differently. They're biased. They should think differently. But now Dave Chappelle has always been funnier than me. And Chris Rock has always been funnier than me. I've always been aware of who was funnier than me. I've just also been aware of who wasn't. So now I know the real Bernie Mac stories, and I know that the people that made money off Bernie Mac didn't like him. They hated his gut.
So when they kept sending me that, I knew what was up. Oh, what's up? No, in the industry, this is what I told y'all. That's why Versus is gone. Didn't I tell you Versus was gonna be gone once they signed with Triller? That's what I meant. No, there's so many different people in the way. There's like tons of them. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, Versus is out of there because they realize it's done. They own it. Like they're not gonna get their money. They couldn't hit those benchmarks. They went for the big money. And when you do that, you could have went for less money and had more realistic benchmarks that you could reach. When you go for the big money, they're gonna put these benchmarks in there that you can't meet or exceed. And then people, it's not even marketed right, it's not promoted right. People didn't even know the battles was taking place. It's like it's a battle that's tonight. Mm-hmm. Monica versus Brandy was trash. No, it's just that once you went to a pay, no, I don't know what he said about Paul Mooney freestyling set. But the thing is, once you go to a pay format, you're putting yourself in a predicament where, yeah, you're putting yourself in a situation where others who are going, they're going to question the scenarios. They're going to question the outlook of all of it. They really are. They're going to question it. They're gonna have their own ideals. They're gonna have their own questions to these contracts. But they Swiss Beats, he was thinking about the money. So what happens is when you don't hit these benchmarks and these quotas that they have, like at every, like let's say every quarter, you got to hit a certain benchmark, which if for them to allot them to give you the next lump, they don't just give you all that money. You get them in increments. You get them like each quarter. So you have to exceed a certain amount of whatever benchmark that they put in place. And if you don't meet those expectations, the fine print say they don't have to give you the money. And this is why Swiss Beats and them is like, hey, we ready to do the show. We ain't got the money. Where's the money? Trilla ain't paid us yet. And they're like, well, you didn't hit the benchmark, so we don't pay for this quarter. You don't get that big money. So now you're screwed because you were assuming you were going to get it because you didn't read the fine print. You didn't know how your contract was structured. See, this is why when you get into a digital era, you have to know how the contracts are set up digitally. They didn't realize this. I know that. That's why it's more realistic to set your expectations lower and you keep the benchmarks low. You take less money. People are like, why would you take less? Because now if you're exceeding that, the benchmarks are more easier to hit. So now you're getting that money instead of losing out on the money because you're going to end up getting that same low money that you're settling for, or maybe less by going for the big money. That's how it works. Now, all the people who talk about those situations, like they put them in place and they put these parameters. I don't really understand it, to be honest. A lot of people feel like it's a level of indifference. Like for me, it's nothing, but a lot of people feel a level of indifference when you see it. No, they sold it to a streaming company, a pay-per-view streaming company. That's what Triller does. And Triller is set up as a digital entity. So the way they like to treat their situation is they're going to create how the business infrastructure is going to go. And they're like, look, you can make this much and we want you to make money, but we're not going to pay you this money unless you can hit these benchmarks. So you got to all constantly work. They're just going to distribute it. You got to actually do the work. And when that miscommunication go, it is what it is. They were treating it like it was a regular like network, like BET, MTV, or VH1. It don't work like that. They know now. Yeah, they fighting and battling over contracts, all that nonsense. Well, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody who looks at it in a different way or a different light, they never seem to understand the parameters of what somebody want to do or what they ought to do or what they should do. They often think about themselves, and the greed get in there when you have multiple people in there. Now, when it comes to the comedy thing, all comedians are in the same boat. They're in the same boat right now. It's not a lot of money out there. It's not a lot of shows where a lot of people are breaking the bank. A lot of concert platforms are gone. It's not a lot of HBO specials. They've been closing comedy clubs down. So it's been really dry. And for whatever the reason may be, people seem to think they have the answer or the antidote to turn it all around. And now it's like, let's just beef with each other. See, not everybody get to do specials. There's a lot of comedians out there. And a lot of them got to jump on the hot comedian circuit to try to make it happen. And a lot of them are doing the podcast circles. Like I told you, there's so much stuff going on with these podcasters that I just don't like. For real, I just don't like it. I mean, everybody's doing like cotton candy, like podcasts. When I hear, man, what's your top 5 today in the NBA? Like your top 5 like go-to guys with like 3 minutes to go. Who would you say is your top 3? Who would you say is your top 5? I hate that. That's lazy. That's so lazy. God damn. And that's what this game has become. That's why I've had so many problems with just podcasts. It's not just Gil's Arena, which is terrible. It's just like that. It's other ones that is just as terrible as that one. God awful. That's what I mean. I just don't want my time wasted. Why should I waste 3 hours out of my day to sit there and listen to your podcast, go back and forth with no information? No information. Hell, Gilbert Arenas just told the whole story wrong again. And they sat there and said he was right. Oh, well, yeah, thanks for coming through with that gym. I'm like, coming through with that gym? Do some journalistic work. Look it up. That dude was wrong as 2 left shoes. He telling the story all wrong about the Chris Paul trade. Yet again. Second time he done told it wrong. The first time he told it, he said he was involved in it. And I made a video saying that was a lie. So now this time he had sense enough to leave himself out of it. Because he know that just been too stupid. All right, it's all this fluff and puff, just like you said. They doing fluff and puff. MC Ren, I mean, he was doing something, like they did an interview or something. He was on a podcast saying some things. But yeah, he hadn't really been seen around like that in public. Oh yeah, definitely hit the Cash App up. Is Carcino is the name on the Cash App. If you want to support the page. No, it's been a lot that had happened that didn't agree with a lot of us. You know, yeah, it was quite interesting. You know, so it was rather unique. We just did a whole live stream on that yesterday about LeBron trade. Some very interesting information that nobody knew about is involved in that. So if you listen to it, you'll be good to go. Oh, of course, it's trying to get the money now. Once you have, that's what I'm saying. Once you have, like, you look at Usher. Usher was just on Club Shay Shay, right? Usher was trying to go viral. He was saying a whole bunch of stuff that nobody give a damn about. Me and Jay-Z and somebody Diddy, we was all gonna be one super mega group. I'm like, who gave a hell about that? Nobody cared. Usher was trying. No, he was searching for his Katt Williams moment. He was, and I tell you, people gonna come up there entirely different now. They want to see if they can get 50 million. Club Shay Shay do not mind. Go for it. Now people are tuning in to Club Shay Shay to see if somebody say something and just go way off the rails. That's what people do now. They don't let anything develop. They come around and make these comments, and that is that. Oh, pretty much. But I want to say thank y'all for tuning in. Kwame Brown Bust Life. Kwame probably doing his own live right about now. But I gotta bounce and get some sleep. I'm tired. This is what working all day look like. These other dudes talk it, we live it. Shout out to HD, Jose Rodriguez. Ticket TV be grinding. He started like 5 in the morning. Shouts out to all y'all in the chat. Appreciate y'all, even the haters. I'm out.